this is not a schedule. The election in Portugal. The election in Portugal is not a scheduled election. The last election was in 2022, not that long ago, and the Socialist Party won almost had 50% of the vote on their own. Everyone else had under 10%. Wait, is this? Yeah, everyone else had under 10%. It seems maybe this thing is not displaying properly. It seems this didn't exist at the time. Anyway. Let's check. 2022. Boom. Okay, everyone except this opposition party, main opposition party, the PSD, the Social Democrats. It's 40%, 30%, and everyone else under 10%. But more importantly, the Socialist Party got... Isn't there a parliament thing? Yeah. They got an absolute majority of parliaments just on their own. Just the party on their own had 120 seats, if I'm not mistaken, based on what I saw earlier. Yes, 120 seats of the 230 seats. That's 2 years ago. And since then, the government collapsed due to a massive corruption scandal. The chief of staff of the prime minister has been arrested. A bunch of searches at the official residence of the prime minister about something to do with state contracts involving lithium and hydrogen. We will talk about this more with the journalist when we get to speak with him, hopefully soon. But yeah, the previous prime minister is definitely not going to serve after that thing. So it's neck and neck between the Socialist Party, who are usually, when a Socialist Party is called a Socialist Party in the EU, they're actually Social Democrats, and the Social Democrats are usually more center-right. So that's the case in Germany. And yeah, usually when you hear center Democrat is like center to center right, and Socialist Party is rarely an actual Socialist Party. It's just a social democratic party who want to use the branding of socialism. Then we have this far-right party here, who have been pretty steadily climbing from 7% in 2022 to a peak of 18%. This was 2 months ago, a month and a half ago. Now they're down to 16% according to the latest polls. Down here, they're going to matter possibly in terms of coalition. But yeah, the three parties that really are going to matter in the election are these three. The far-right party, that's basically going to be a kingmaker if they choose to ally with AD, is the political alliance of the Social Democratic Party. AD is basically the PSD. If you looked at my Polish election video, I talked quickly about like the distinction between political party and parliamentary group, but it's always like, well, you know, there's a bunch of smaller parties, but they coalesce into these parliamentary group, and the parliamentary groups are referred to as parties. AD is basically that, is like the PSD plus a few other small parties, that just to make it a little bit bigger. Anyway, so the results came back. Provisional results. Keep in mind that these are estimates based on exit polls, and it seems like, yeah, they're cool. They're giving a range here. So AD, which is roughly the same as PSD to keep it simple. Anyway, so 29 to 33% for AD for the social democrats, in like, that's what they're called, or we'll stick to that, or Democratic Alliance. We'll call them Democratic Alliance. PS is 25 to 29%. Chega, so the far right party, 14 to 17%. So pretty much as expected here. It looks very close to what we were looking at here. This, according to the latest polls, they were basically at the upper limit of what they seem to have done. But this can change. It is possible. For example, in the Netherlands, the initial estimates for how well PVV, the party of Geert Wilders, the initial estimates were way low compared to what the final numbers told a few days ago. A few days later, I mean. So I guess the question here is, the main question for the journalist when we talk to them is, how do these two how do the like center-right to like slightly more conservative Democratic Alliance get along with Jega? Are they going to want to work together? Because that's the big thing in the Dutch elections, is that the far-right party, no one wants to, barely, there's one smaller party that is really happy to work for them. Everyone else is like kind of holding their nose, trying to negotiate for their own benefits, but they're also like, we do not want them to be in power. So obviously Chega would not be in power if they made an alliance, but how closely do these two parties, like how comfortable would they be working with each other? And if they don't want to work with each other, is there another path to... I don't even think there would be another path to majority. Let's see. Let's assume it's the smaller numbers just for the sake of it. So we have 29 plus 5 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 plus 1.5. This would never happen. I don't even know. There's no way that all of these parties just happen to be happy to work together. But even so, yeah, even if all of these parties were happy to work together, there's no way that they would be able to form a majority. It could be... So yeah, my question is, when we get to speak to the journalist, is what is more likely between these two parties who probably basically, who hates each other the least between these two parties and these two parties? Is there a chance for an alliance between AD and PS? Or is that completely off the table and the only possibility of a majority coalition is AD and Chega? Yeah, I would assume that's usually the case with the center-right and the far-right, is that they hate each other a lot. So, yeah, that is... Unless they're even more conservative than their name would suggest, it doesn't seem like they would be the kingmakers that a lot of people have been talking about. I tried to get to speak one of them. So I ended up speaking. I ended up getting in touch with a freelance journalist that was suggested by a former colleague of mine. But I tried to speak with someone from Europe Elects but we weren't able to coordinate fast enough. I wasn't able to get in touch with him fast enough to coordinate for this evening. So hopefully, yeah, this was a bit last minute because something else fell through. Hopefully we're able to speak to the journalist this evening as soon as he gets back to me, because he wanted to wait until after the results came in. He was still on air, I think. And hopefully we can maybe see if we can do a deeper dive later. But no, I would like to talk about this with the journalist this evening if we can. What's interesting to me, and this is something that I didn't know, we were looking at this a few weeks ago, and I was surprised to see, this is the Economist's Democracy Index based on last year. And I was surprised to see Portugal as one of the... Sorry about that. One of the worst democracies, the worst graded democracies in Western Europe. You have Italy, Belgium, and Portugal as the only three in Western Europe, of course, like not... I don't know exactly where you consider that Western Europe starts, but of course, Poland not doing great, Hungary definitely not doing great. Yeah, Hungary is not just like, but anyway, yeah. Portugal, I was surprised to see it as like that's below 8 or 9 out of 10. But then I actually looked at what they're graded on, and the election process, they're 9.5, so it's not too bad. What they have is functioning of government. They're low. They have a very low rating there, 6.8. Political participation, 6.7, and political culture, 6.9, are really, so it's more like cultural reasons why they're considered a flawed democracy rather than the actual functioning of governments is more than just culture. But yeah, the electoral process at least seems to be extremely healthy, and the civil liberties in Portugal are also very highly rated. So the main problem, not surprisingly so, considering the major corruption scandal from the reason why there's a new election now, it's not too surprising that the functioning of government is low. It lost a lot in the rating, and they lost out of 10. Now they're rated at 7.75. They lost 3 points, which mean that they were at essentially 9 point something just 1 year ago. So the initial results, exit polls that came out, have ranges, as we were seeing earlier. So AD, which is the center right, it's the alliance that is led by the Social Democratic Party, was expected to get between 29 and 33% of the vote, and they seem to be leading the thing. The center-right coalition on course for narrow victory. Center-right coalition being AD, which is the parliamentary alliance, but because this is not a party in itself. PSD is the party. So here we have, for example, it's an alliance because it's an alliance between PSD, CDS, PP, and PPM. I don't know what those are. So 31.8% of the votes is what they seem to have, and we're starting to get early information of how many seats they have. But for now, there's not much. We're just getting percentage of the vote. There's a difference between percentages of the vote, of the popular vote that they got, and percentages of the seats in parliament. For example, when the Socialist Party got 42% of the popular vote in 2022, they still got more than 50% of the seats, because individual seat races will, the math just works out differently in that way. Okay, so center-right parties on course to narrowly defeat incumbent socialist in Portugal. Yes, but again, this is a parliamentary system, so they don't just need to have the most votes. They need to form a government with 50% of parliament. So is anyone here talking about that? A coalition of Portuguese center-right parties is on course to narrowly defeat the incumbent, but narrowly defeats by getting more votes than them, but not necessarily by actually being able to form a government on their own. So yes, Falwell showed a majority. Closely fought snap election, with the far-right Chega party looking to set double its share of the vote and finish third. Yes, because 2022 they had 7%, and now they're looking like that is more than double. That's almost triple. They went from 7% to 19%. Chega is projected to come in third with a massively increased share of the vote, raising the prospect that it could act as a kingmaker in the formation of a new center-right administration. If Chega, I don't know enough about Chega to if Chega is as bad as people say they are, this would not be a center-right administration if they're in it. Hey, how are you? Can you start by introducing yourself, please?
So my name is Julien. I'm a Portugal correspondent for Europe Elects. So I'm political and data analyst for Europe Elects, covering Portugal for them. And I've been following the Portuguese campaign for the legislative election for them since November, I think. It's been quite a ride, to be fair.
Yeah, it seems like the last couple of years in Portuguese politics have been quite active, for sure. We were
Yeah.
reading a bit about the situation here. How would you explain what the events that led to this elections, which was not a pre-planned election? It's a snap election because the government fell apart, basically.
Yeah, the government fell apart because of a corruption scheme that was unveiled, that is still being a part of an investigation, still being investigated by the Portuguese Ministry of Justice. Basically, yes, it's about corruption in the attribution of public contracts regarding the exploitation of lithium and hydrogen in Portugal. It was totally unexpected the way the government fell through. It basically all happened in the span of one morning of I think 5 or 6 hours. We had the government, and then we didn't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's totally unexpected. It's a snap election, as you said, because the last election in 2022, the Socialist Party got an absolute majority of seats in the Assembly of the Republic. So we were only needed to vote in 2026. So yeah, it's really unexpected, and the results also are a bit expected too.
Yeah. So what's going to happen to the former prime minister, the one who just lost his seat?
Yeah, he's resigning, so we don't know anymore.
Is he facing? Because I know that his chief of staff was arrested. Is he facing corruption charges as well? What's his situation when it
No,
comes to the corruption scandal?
not formally. He isn't being charged formally, but his name has been quoted, cited in the investigation. So we're still waiting on that. Prime Minister just spoke on national television a few minutes ago, and he was asked about this investigation, but he has nothing. We haven't seen the investigation hasn't moved a lot since November, so everything remains open at
Okay.
this point.
So it seems like in the election results that just came out, there's essentially three main parties. There's smaller parties lower down on the totem pole, I guess. How would you summarize the positions of the three main parties that came out? The PS, AD, and NCH. What are they called? Chega.
Yeah. Shaga, yes. First of all, we have AD, which is like a coalition of the traditional classical center-right parties around the PSD, the Social Democratic Party, and the CDS, which is the People's Party. It's really a center-right coalition.
Yeah, just for quick clarification there. So usually when people talk about social democratic, that is usually center left. So is there some kind of inconsistency there? Is there a history as to why they're considered center right in Portugal?
Yeah, but in history it has to deal with the revolution in 1974, because the Portuguese Social Democratic Party took this name as to appear more center left than it was. At first, it was the Popular Democratic and PPD, and it became a PSD, but it's not a Social Democratic Party as you see usually in Europe. It only has the name of it. It's more on the center right.
Mm-hmm. And how would you describe the positions of the PS in that case?
PS is center left. Basically, PS and PSD are the main two parties in the center, center left and center right, and they usually dominated until now Portuguese politics, both of them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is the corruption scandal that just happened kind of something that has a history of happening in Portugal? Is this something that the PS has a reputation for, or is this kind of out of the blue in a new situation?
There's a little bit of a reputation for the in the case of the PS. We already had a corruption probe that was launched into former socialist prime minister. That was José Sócrates, who was in power from 2005 until 2011. So yeah, we can say there's a history of corruption probes into socialist prime minister, but yeah, it's only the second one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not generalized.
So we
have a big issue.
Sorry,
we have a big issue in Portugal with corruption because a few weeks or months ago, we had a corruption probe that was launched into the government of the Madeira region, which is PSD. So yeah, it's basically a global problem in Portugal.
Mm-hmm. So we were trying to read and understand kind of the positions of Chega. My understanding of it, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, is this seems to be essentially a party that has positions that are very close to other far-right parties like Vox or National Rally or Brothers of Italy in other European countries, but that is using very mild language, and because it seems to be a very new party, it seems like it's kind of hard to point to actual far-right actions or history in that party. Are there, because basically when we were reading about the party, they seem to like trip a lot of red flags, but are still using very mild language and very kind of appearing very reasonable in the arguments and the rhetoric that they use. Have there been kind of more mask-off moments that give a better indication of what they actually stand for?
It's a bit hard to say because they have always tried to appear as mild as they can in politics, because the Portuguese political system is made with rules that you cannot basically preach for the dictatorship that we had in Portugal back then, before the revolution. So there are things you can't say, because if you say them, you cannot be a party in Portugal, cannot be registered. So they have always tried to appear quite mild, and I think, and that is my personal understanding, that they are more mild now than they were before, because the first campaign of Chega in 2019 was quite more radical. We had André Ventura, who is the leader of the Chega Party, constantly or frequently making appeals against the Roma people in Portugal, saying things like people who steal, we should cut their hands.
Okay.
You know, yeah, it was a bit more extreme back then. There were some bites, but that's enough for Portugal back then. So they are milder now. Maybe that's the strategy they have chosen to appeal to more people, because I think the results give them 18% tonight so far. So yeah.
So obviously, it seems like a lot of international media are referring to them as potential kingmakers in the election. My big question is, based on tonight's results, essentially, so AD seems to be the winner of tonight's election, but they're far from being able to form a majority government or a majority coalition in parliament. So obviously, the big question is, who are they going to ally with to form a government? And my big the information that I lack in my understanding of Portuguese politics, because I essentially know nothing about Portuguese politics, is basically who hates each other more between PS and AD or AD and Chega.
PS and AD have a history together, because they have been one government of them together, PS and PSD, back in the 80s, and it didn't work. It worked for 2 years, then it fell down. But Chega is behind the cordon sanitaire at the same time. So nobody wants to work with Chega. We still need to wait for
in France, there's something called the Republican Front. Would be that'd be something similar in Portugal?
Not really. We don't have a Republican front because the Republican Front in France works only with two-way elections. To run the elections. This is proportionally, so it's not really the same. But nobody wants to work with Chega so far. That's what has been said by every leader in Portugal so far. But we need to wait for the final numbers because as things currently stand, we have AD with 69 seats and PS with 66. So we don't know yet who has won the election.
Okay.
We have to wait a bit more. I think we have maybe 40 seats to be distributed.
Okay, yeah, that's fair
still.
enough. Because I understood that from it seems like in the absolute number, like in the total percentage of the vote, AD came out on top. But it's true that I forgot to account for the fact that maybe the seat distribution can be different from the total numbers. Okay.
That's it.
What am I missing? In chat, if you have any questions that you're wondering about, feel free to ask. Yeah, because we're going from a situation where PS just 2 years ago got an absolute majority of parliament to essentially they collapsed to either a very close first position or a second position in just a matter of 2 years. Is that entirely due to the corruption scandal, or did something else happen for them to lose that dramatically? And on the flip side, do you attribute Chega's essentially doubling in popularity in the last 2 years to them being more mild, or is it a response to PS's loss in popularity?
I feel like PS's score tonight and their loss can be mainly explained from the corruption probe that was launched. Because if you see the polling charts, the polling numbers we had before the corruption inquiry was launched, they were lower than in 2022, but still on top, maybe with 34, 35%. What happens basically is that just after the launch of this corruption inquiry, they fell down. And basically, during 2 months, they were without a leader, with a tough and tight race inside party between two lines. And yeah, maybe no. In my opinion, it's due to the corruption probe that they're so low and that they fell down. As for Chega, yeah, it's maybe two sides. On one side, yes, they are more mild than in 2019, but they have run maybe the same campaign as in 2022. So you cannot really explain on this way, this way, yes. You cannot explain this way why they have gotten maybe 11% more than 2 years ago. I feel like, and we need to wait to see if we have research papers produced on this, but maybe it's a reaction to the corruption probe too, the Chega vote, because before the launch of this investigation, they were higher than 7%, and the score in 2022, but they weren't this high. Yeah.
So I have a question from a chatter called Bobo, who's asking, is there a middle ground for DA and SP to work together or to work with, I guess? Or would that government fall apart in 2 years again?
In theory, I think they could work together, but nobody wants to. And like we had a few socialist politicians talking on national TV a few minutes and a few hours ago, saying that they're going into opposition. So the door is closed. Yeah.
So what would that mean? So if no one wants to work with Chega and PS is refusing to work with DA as well, does that open the door to a minority government or to running a new election? Like what are the possibilities right now? Because I was doing the math, and even if all of the smaller parties work together with DA, it doesn't seem like there's a possibility for a majority government there either.
Yeah, the issue is that on the right, you can have either a government with AD and the Liberals, but that only gets you to 80, 90 seats.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a minority. And on the left, you can have a broad coalition of the left, like in 2015, and it still would get you maybe 90 seats too. So it's really, really complicated at this point. What happens next? We can't say, because a minority government will need to be approved in the assembly. And for that, you need to have either the socialists or Chega to abstain. And so far, it's unclear, because the socialists have offered to abstain during the campaign, but only if the PSD would offer the same if the PS would win.
Mm-hmm.
And the PSD hasn't said that they would be open to that. So we'll have to see how it goes. One scenario that is on the table is that we could go to another election in a few months. We have to wait, I think, 6 months to have another election, and yeah, it's a possibility. If nothing comes out of this, we're going to the polls again.
Mm-hmm. So what seems to be the most likely situation in your opinion?
I can't say.
Yeah, it's too early to tell.
I can't say, because yeah, it's really, really difficult, because the numbers are really somewhat different from the polling. The polls we have seen didn't have AD this low and PS this close, and Chega this high. We have Chega with 43 seats as of now. So yeah, I can't really say what's going to happen. We don't have a clue at this point.
So you were saying that PS politicians were already talking about being in the opposition, so they're refusing to work with AD if AD are indeed end up having the biggest number of seats. Does that mean that on the flip side, if the results kind of change over the course of the vote count and PS does happen to have maybe like one extra seat compared to DA, do you think they would agree to have AD coming in to like as a minority partner in their coalition, or is that also out of the possibility?
I don't think so. The current leaders of the PS and the PSD of the AD, there are totally different lines. The current leader of the PS is more on the internally on the left-leaning side of the party. So I don't feel like there is a common ground for a joint government of both parties. No, I don't think so. The most probable outcome of this would be that PSD, so the AV and the Liberals, will try to form a government. But that depends on the Socialist or Chega abstaining once more, and I don't see either abstaining.
Okay, well, it looks like a bit of a mess, a bit of a gridlock there.
Yeah,
like it seems like there's no way to make the pieces fit together without either just people going, well, we have to work with Chega in that case because we have no other option to form a government, or just going for another election. But even if there's another election, it seems uncertain that the results would be different enough to actually change the situation, because it seems like any possible coalition is so far from being even possible in terms of the math that the election results would need to be radically different in just the course of 6 months for it to actually make a difference.
That's the issue, because Portugal isn't used to having strong third parties. We usually have like one big party and a few minority parties standing there for confidence and supply if we need. But we aren't used to a strong third party like Chega is now. I think the last time we had a third party this strong was in 1983, like 40 years ago. And the party that was this strong at this moment didn't last. It lasted 2 years, then it fell down. So that's a bit of a challenge for Chega to be able to remain here. And they are maybe on the tightrope because they have to decide whether they want to go full on opposition mode or try to let a right-wing government to be able to pass things. So yeah, we're a bit in a bit of a deadlock at this point, and we will need time to see how we can exit it, and we can leave that.
Okay. Yeah. Do you feel like there's maybe Are you sensing a sense a reaction of shock to the result that Chega got, or is this pretty much what was expected in the polls? It seems to be pretty close to the polling that I've seen in recent days.
Yeah.
Do you think this is, are people likely to be shocked into a higher voter turnout at the next election to avoid Chega having this result, this share of the vote again if there's another election in 6 months? Or how do you feel people are responding to Chega's success in this election?
It's difficult to say because I don't think it is a shock. Because yes, the numbers in themselves are quite close to the polling, to the polls. What is a bit shocking is the number of MPs they're getting, because we didn't have a lot of projections produced before the election, and the count is still going on. I think they are on 44 MPs now, and it's really a high number. Nobody really predicted them to have so much MPs, because they had 12 MPs before the election. So yeah, that's the main issue there is. As for the turnout, I don't think we will see a higher turnout if there was an election again, because the turnout we have tonight is way higher than in 2022. I don't have the exact numbers, but tonight we are at 66%, I think, which is high for Portugal. We haven't seen these levels of participation years, or maybe since the financial crisis, I think. So, and it seems like all these new voters went to vote for Chega.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't think we can see like a reaction if a new election were to happen.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming on such a short notice. Would you be open to coming on again in maybe next weekend or in a couple of weeks if there's any new developments regarding the situation?
Yeah, maybe we'll see that. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, again, yeah, thanks I'm sorry for the super last minute email.
No issue. I wasn't really prepared. I think that's showing.
Yeah, I've been trying. No, you were great. I've been trying to set things up for someone who would be able to explain the situation to me for a couple of weeks, and every time there was a possibility, and it was either canceled last minute or something else fell through. So I really appreciate you stepping in, and yeah, I hope something happens that kind of unlocks the situation, because right now it looks pretty stuck.
We'll see. Yeah.
Okay.
We have to follow it, but I think it will take maybe 1 month before we start seeing really things moving.
Yeah, if anything, because if you look at the situation in the Netherlands, for example, it's been what, 4 months now, and it's still exactly where it was the day after the election, essentially. Well, yeah, thank you so much. I look forward to keeping in touch, and let's talk when something new happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Super.
Okay. Thanks. See you soon. Bye.
Thanks. Goodbye. Bye.
Don't forget to like and follow. This was a clip from the weekly Barely Informed live stream. You can catch it every Sunday on the main Barely Informed YouTube channel, and please support us on Patreon. The link for both of those are down below.